Hello and welcome to the Dive Bar, where we dive into the games of the week, joined again by Tyler, also known as Simino Mas, and unfortunately Trevor has TP'd into the enemy jungle and died. So to fill his slot this week, we have special guest, week 1 player of the week, with multiple player of the week considerations, mid laner and captain for 1IQ, Richie, also known as Rihi. How's it going?
Good. How's it going, guys?
Going great,
It's
going great
great.
for us. Been a long
Got my
week.
dog tier in the back. Fiddlesticks. Everybody's here.
Everybody's here,
Gang's all here.
getting ganked by Fiddlesticks and your dog.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just do a quick question just before we jump into the matches. How does it feel being like one of the current top teams? Like, is it a little bit stressful, or is it like, like we're chilling up here, we're big?
It would feel a lot better if I had beaten Trevor's team so he couldn't lord it over me. We are going to beat them in playoffs, so it's fine, but it does, it feels good. We're doing good. We had a little bit of an off week. We did not properly zone the support Sejuani, so she was able to, of course, steal Baron as support Sejuani does, and kind of went downhill from there. But I think it'll be good. And I'm very, very happy with our team and the progress, and everybody's doing awesome. And I think we're only improving because we do play in a lot and practice a lot. So definitely, I don't know. I've been in beer league for a long time, since like season 2 or whatever. So I feel like pressure wise, it doesn't really get to me. Like doing good or bad, I just feel like whatever. It's mostly for fun, anyways. But like obviously, we want to do really well. So I don't feel pressure to do well for sure. And I've got confidence in the team, so I think that helps. Or I don't really feel like it's like, I expect us to perform, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I had noted down the only series that you've dropped so far was to PSR, and yeah, PSR is like intimidating. Are there any like thoughts that you want to share on kind of how they play the games, like because they're always like taking the TPs and I don't know, just like playing the map through macro. And it's
Yeah,
just...
I mean, do you want like what I think would beat it, or do you want just, I guess, general thoughts? I
Whatever
think
you want to share, because I don't want like if you have something cooking in the back rooms for
no,
playoffs, I don't want to reveal it.
I think, I mean, and a lot of this is like only helpful in the sense of like it's like advice, but it's also like, it can be bad advice in the sense of like, well, just do better. Like, it's like against them, you just, which is even when Trevor's not taking teleport in the jungle, I feel like against their team or against anyone with Zax, SDKs on their team, you just can't get lazy with like waves. You have to do just like which sounds stupid, but you have to like really focus on like the fundamentals, the basics of the game. You can't be lazy with like where your waves are located. You can't walk away from a wave that's by your turret. Of course, now you also have to be worried about, does the jungler and support and AD carry have TP, but you can track those things, and you should be tracking those things. And it should never be, which I don't think we did a good job of in our series versus them. So I think next time we will be doing a lot better. And I think teams against them should be able to properly track those things, and even if they do like a double teleport top lane and get a kill and maybe even a turret, you should be able to respond to that in some way. Nothing should be like free when they're committing like an 80 carry teleporting away from a wave or something. So you should always be looking for everything in League of Legends should have some sort of cost, and whether that's just giving up that tempo you had or whatever, it's like someone teleporting away should absolutely be like a punishable thing, and we didn't do a good enough job punishing it. And I think we were kind of being a little bit too relaxed in our just fundamentals of the game, and we've talked about that and have cleaned it up quite a lot since then already. And but I think teams looking to play against them, just don't be lazy. As boring as it is, like just make sure you have the fundamentals of the game down as well as you can. You're focusing on wave state, you're focusing on tempo, you're focusing on timers, teleport timers, whatever, and just basic stuff like that. And you just can't be lazy about any of it, because if you forget any step of it along the way, they're going to punish it really hard, and they do. So they're playing awesome, but it's not a strategy. There's a reason not every jungler's running teleport. It should be punishable, but they're just playing really well, and it is weird, so it throws people off. But I don't think it's like some uncounterable strategy. I think we just didn't do good playing into it, and teams are not playing around it properly, myself included, because we got two of them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was really really well put. I like that.
Thank you.
Hopefully teams can like use that information. I feel like that was like really good. I hope teams listen to this and kind of take that into consideration and use that to improve against PSR, because we all want him going down.
Yeah,
Trevor's
they
not
gotta
here.
lose
We
at
can say
some
it.
point.
We want him going down.
He'd probably say it harder if he was here. Someone's got to beat him. I was glad we got one loss out of the way, so we're more fired up now. But
Yeah.
do that in regular season versus playoffs.
All right, so now we can hop into the matches. So this episode is being recorded on Thursday, going out probably Saturday. So we won't be discussing BW versus LS, which is taking place on Friday. But with that out of the way, we can hop straight into finishing up the Week 4 games. Starting right off the bat, we got Barren Wasteland versus Coach Rivals. Coach Rivals took this one in 3 games. And really good performances. Some of the things that were like kind of really crazy. I feel like Ched did pretty good throughout the series. In the top lane was, I mean, even though when you look at the KDA, it wasn't great. I feel like he got ganked a lot. Like it was like, without the ganks, he was kind of stomping the lane a little bit. I feel like, but we can talk more about that later. But another thing I wanted to highlight was Eric, 29, like the Karthus, the Lucian, and the Kai'Sa did pretty well on all of them. Kind of surprisingly well on the Karthus. But what were your guys' thoughts about this game?
I don't know. I thought it was a really good series. I think the teams are both pretty close, obviously, like with it going 3 games, just like their level of play. But Barren Wasteland, like they did really well in game 1. They did put Shed behind in the top lane. They got Mordekaiser rolling pretty well, and then Waps was also able to make something work on Nasus mid against Aurelion Sol, which I think would be a little difficult and a little annoying, especially with Rylai's, being a rushed item. It should have made the job a lot more difficult on Waps. But I mean, they just played really well game 1, obviously. And then Ched, like you said, like he had a really good performance on Shen. And like, yeah, he's obviously not going to have the kill total because he is playing Shen, but with 15 assists, I'm sure he uses ult plenty enough to save Eric 29. Who is obviously the carry for that team, not just position-wise, but I think he's 6 points or 5 points. I'm not 100% sure. But like every single week, he's been able to perform and to a high standard that I think we expect him to be the best ADC in the league at this point. His Karthus game, yeah, he died 13 times, but I don't know what that sound was.
That's my cat.
But he's Karthus, so it's okay if he dies. Like he can still put out damage. He can still press the outplay button. That is the Karthus ult. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was great performance by CR. Got another win on their tally board.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch that series yet. Unfortunately, I've been busy couple weeks, but just skimming through it here. I think Karth as a pick is super good bot lane. Actually, I think he is a champ. I see they had Aurelion Sol as well in that game. I do think Karthus is like a big single AP threat enjoyer. Like he does not like when enemies can stack magic resistance. Aurelion Sol doesn't care as much, but I do think if game 1 they didn't have an AP mid, Karthus would have been really, really good. But I think Eric's crazy. I think we played against him week 2 or 3, pretty early on. We already played against him, but very, very good. In fact, like surprisingly good. We dropped 1 game against them, and it was largely on the back of, I believe, Lucian from him just absolutely going crazy. And no, very, very strong team. And I mean, BW is honestly, like you said, they're a very close team, and that points to the fact, they went to 3 games and stuff. But you said CR, and I didn't catch up on CR won it 2-1. It sounds like. Yeah. That I think that's about what I would expect them to take it, but I'm not surprised it went to 3 games. I think both those teams are very solid. I actually think, besides like a couple outliers, I think this season is like pretty. Like I don't think, even with the outliers, I don't think there's any series where I'd go into and just be like, it's 100% this team gonna win. Like, I mean, these are probably a little more middle of the pack technically, but like I think both of these teams are really solid. So yeah, not surprised it went to 3 games, but also I think I would have given it to CR going into it by a little bit.
Yeah, I also think that CR probably would have taken it into games if it weren't for how much of a counter the Mordekaiser ended up being into the Alawi. Because Alawi would like pull a soul, ult, and then Mordekaiser would ult, and Alawi would just now be a completely useless character, like just a cannon minion inside of the Death Realm. So It was really unfortunate because Ched was doing really good, but then they ended up just like kind of just getting hard counted in fights by that. But then, Ched did really well in the later games. On the Kled, they were abusing the heck out of Lord Wrath in the top lane. Their KDA doesn't really reflect going super crazy, but they definitely were doing really good. And some of the Kled ults they had also were like really just nice looking. My goodness, my cat wants to join too.
Yeah.
We can bring Yumi in here. We already have Nasus behind Richie, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the whole squad. Fiddlesticks.
But apart from Ched's good performance, Eric was just, I mean, the fact that I was really skeptical about the Karthus pick because we haven't seen mages bot lane in a while, and I feel like out of all the mages I would want to see bot lane, I wasn't feeling too confident about Karthus, but they made the Karthus actually look pretty good. I think, I can't remember, yes, I'm pretty sure it was this series I was casting where I saw some really good Karthus ults. But I was like struggling to remember because I was casting another series on Tuesday where it was like an absolute stomp, but that wasn't in this league. So I'm just trying to keep my cast straight. But yeah, so Eric did really good in the Karthus, and then next game Lucian, 12-6, was doing really good. I think Lucian's kind of slept on ADC. Well, I don't know that necessarily he's being slept on, but I feel like he's stronger than people consider sometimes. But I don't know. I think I might also be inflating two-hit passives a bit more than they're actually worth. But then also the final game, 11-1 on Kai'Sa. Like, it was just really ridiculous. Especially because Hook, Flea, Prey, I think, and Trash Can are both pretty decent.
Yeah.
And they just, like, absolutely steamrolled them.
Yeah, I mean, I think game one, the Karthus, big Karthus enjoyer here, so I'm biased. But yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, I think Eric might have even been able to like hard carry that. But since they have the two mages on the team, you just need to have like a consistent 80 threat mid if you're going to play mage somewhere else. Because like at minimum, I guess the 80 carry specifically didn't, but like everyone else on the team looks like they have like at least one full magic resistance item, if not multiple, and that just Karthus ult's gonna like not be doing nearly as much as you'd want it to. But if you only have because even if you like are only Karthus and you're able to build the like extra flat pen or whatever, like if they decide to build MR, they're building against one person on the team. So that's in a sense helping the team a ton too. But if you can build MR and stop early and sullen Karthus from being impactful, it super values. Yeah, I think Eric could have even carried that one potentially with a little bit better draft setup.
Yeah, I mean the Nasus in that game as well, being able to build Spirit Visage and having it not just be a healing item for him, but having it be actually a pretty effective item into their team's damage was really helpful. Waps definitely went around whapping a lot of people on the head, winning that game for him.
yeah.
But I think that kind of concludes the thoughts on that series. Ched did really good, Eric did really good. The game one draft was just, if CR had done it a little differently, seems like we agree that could have won that game. But that kind of summarizes that series. Next one in week 4, sort of wrapping up week 4. LS versus HH. HH won this one in 3 games. And I liked that I think it was game 1. I probably should have written down when these things happened. I had a lot of things written down, didn't write down what games they happened in. But in game 1, I believe HH took a page from PSR's book. They stirred up a big fight bot lane, and then there was like, I think 1 or 2 TPs up to the top lane, and they took Baron after that, after bringing like their whole team down to the bot lane. So I really liked that one. I definitely got to highlight that Toru had a pentakill, and I believe, yeah, okay, that was the Mundo pentakill. Yeah, right, I remember you mentioned that right before you were watching that. Yeah, the Mundo pentakill on Toru, that was also game 1. I guess that's why I didn't write down the games, because these might have all been in game 1. So what were you guys' thoughts on this series?
I mean, I think Toru played really well this series. I mean, in game 3, it wasn't his best game overall. But, he held on enough as set to do what was needed. Vivian Desu had a really good series, it seems like. But I don't know, game 1 blue medal, or no, game 2 blue medal. Like, he pulled a Richie, he went 809, had very little, no deaths, actually. And A-Soul just being a fun champ to play that takes a lot of skill to press Q and E, and make sure that you kill minions in that time frame. He had a good series in that game. Well, he had a good game too. But overall, sorry, I'm rambling. HH, like, they're able to get their bot lane rolling in game 3, and I think that's been something that has been avoiding them. The top half of their map is obviously their strength, but able to get Notsuki going on Jinx and then the Syndra support as well. Like, I think that really just zoned out Jubilee to where he wasn't really able to play and do exactly what he wanted to do. But Jubilee also didn't have a big front line. Like, the Amumu unfortunately did go Leandries, so it wasn't as tanky. I know that is the Amumu build, but like, other than that, they didn't really have a tank on their squad. And if you just cut through Sawdude on the Amumu, like, that's gonna really terrify your Kog'Maw, even if you do have a Lulu right in your back pocket.
I did not catch the second half of game 2 and game 3 for this one. I didn't finish the cast. There's a Syndra support game 3? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah,
Yes.
I liked that one. I liked that pick.
That's cool. I like it. Syndra is really good right now, but I mean, generally, like, enjoys having gold, but I guess you can get that by killing them too. I certainly like it. How'd that go? I should probably click through it.
Went 3-3-14. I know it got discussed in the game about like how many stacks for the passive and whatnot, but I mean, as long as you're able to make the other champions like life a little bit more difficult, I don't think we really have to worry about passive stacks.
I mean,
at
you
that
also
time.
get a large chunk of your
Stonks.
stack
Yeah.
chunk of your stacks at just comboing champions throughout the game. And with the support item, if you really wanted, you could just be careful about leaving a stack for cannons, and that's how you get your other stacks. And then you get a large chunk of them just from leveling up and skilling, which obviously, you're not getting as much XP as support, but like, it also goes up with game time. I can't remember, or level, I think, but I can't remember the break point. But eventually, your combos, if you hit with 2 abilities in quick succession, it goes from 1 splinter to 2 at some point, and I think it stays at 2 for the rest of the game. But so over time, get some XP, you'll end up getting splinters quicker. Yeah, I think you'd be fine as long as you're like playing aggressive and able to trade a lot. But yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to level as much, but I think that's cool. I think it's an interesting pick. Lulu is a champion that will be good at keeping one person alive, and Syndra's good at killing one person, but I guess I'm not sure. Depends on how fed Syndra gets. You could potentially just chunk through the full Lulu ulti and shield, but
Yeah, I think there is
Yeah.
also good value to Syndra's kind of utility in the Q and E though, because whilst the E can be a lot better once it gets evolved, and it wouldn't be evolved until your 3rd evolve, so it does take a while if you're a support Syndra probably. But the QE stun is really good, and the E pushback, even if you can't get a stun, is also pretty good. At least at like kind of just doing a small amount of peel. Obviously not the best peel, but when you're a damage support and you have a good source of peel as well as your damage, then that could be pretty useful.
yeah, absolutely. The QE is a really good pick tool. I mean, that's one of her best things about mid lane Syndra, which obviously is where she's normally played, but it's going to be the same for support, where she has one of the like longest range stuns in the game in terms of like you can QE from like almost a screen away. It feels like, and it's not the longest stun, but it's enough to normally follow up and do your combo if they don't have tenacity, and if your other people can follow up on this, which I mean, you have like Jinx traps here, and maybe even just a zap to slow them after. And that's just in that lane. But with other stuff, you got Scar and Set and all that too. But yeah, definitely a really powerful pick tool. And then your ultis, of course, just a ton of damage. I definitely like it. I guess I wouldn't, if I was AD carry, I would want my support to not run teleport. I would want something to help me as the greedy AD carry. And if anything, I would be like, I should have the teleport because I'm farming. But I guess that's just stylistic difference. Maybe they're cool with it. But I think you'd probably want to run like heal or something, or ignite and keep your AD carry alive with heal, or look for more pressure with ignite. But that's that's minor. That's just my thoughts on summer spells, I guess. But other than that, it seems like it did really good. I should probably go back and watch that one. I'm curious about how it was working.
Yeah, the ignite over TP, I definitely could see that. I feel like that could have helped out a lot more. Maybe even had them snowballing a little bit harder. They were like 7-2 and 3-3, so like they definitely did pretty good. But maybe the ignite would have got them some more kills earlier. I don't know. I definitely like that. Any final thoughts before I move on to the next week?
No, I mean
We're
that
all
was
good in
a
that match.
good series by both teams for what I saw.
Yeah, I did have it noted down. It was like a really close series.
Yeah.
I actually also noted both. I can't believe I almost forgot to say this. This is like kind of big to me, but both games that LS lost, they lost by like fighting at Dragon, and then they lost that fight, and then the game ended after that. And both of those times that they fought at Dragon, I felt like they didn't necessarily need to fight it. Like it might have been Soul, but I don't know that trying to contest Soul is worth also risking the game. So
Yeah.
it wasn't the great. I know the first time they did it, I think 900 Slimes might have ulted into the drag pit, and they hard committed off of that, and it didn't really work out. The second time, it wasn't necessarily a drag fight. It was a fight that happened in the bot side jungle, I think their side of the bot side jungle, and then drag was coming up. It was like within 30 seconds or something. Maybe it was up. I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. So that second one, technically the second one wasn't a fight at drag, but it was like near drag with drag coming up. So probably drag was a motivation for being there.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah.
oh,
Forgot
sorry.
I was going to mention just no that you're. I was just forgot I was going to mention which HH has 2 wins. They're doing perfectly fine, but that's both of these teams might not be having as much success as they wanted yet. But like, I feel like both these teams are really really solid and like could potentially hit their stride and be looking really good going into playoffs. So like definitely ones to watch out for, even if like maybe the record doesn't look crazy for either of them yet, especially LS struggling to pick up a win yet. But like I still so many of their games and series are like super close and like come down to just minor things. So if they cleaned up a little bit, draft a little differently in some games, whatever, like I'm sure both of these teams will be like ones to look for, even though it might not look like it completely right now. I think they're both very good contenders. Again, I think a lot of basically every team is this season, but yeah, wanted to mention that with especially with LS struggling to find some wins here, but I think all their series have looked pretty dang solid and close.
Yeah, and I mean with that, like we are reaching week 5, so I mean playoffs are just 5 weeks away as well. So time to start putting some wins in that win column, putting some marks down there because it's I don't know top 8. You just
Yeah,
have to not be bottom 2, and you've got a chance to upset PSR. So
you don't want to do what I did like 2 seasons ago, where we couldn't get a win after the first week, and then we started to just cruise in the last 2 weeks, but we literally were too behind that we didn't. We like won 3 of our 4 games in the last 2 weeks, but we just tied with another team that had beat us earlier in the season, so we didn't make it. So you want to start getting wins before it's like out of your hands completely, even if you start to pick up in the last 2 weeks or whatever. It feels bad because I was like, man, we're actually starting to look really good, and we don't make playoffs. Like we 2-0'd Trevor's team that season, which was doing really good, and then we 2-0'd them, and then we're done. that was our last series that season, but I was like, hey, went out on a win.
right. And another thing for both these teams, HH and losing streak, get your casts in so you can make playoffs.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think Jamie did get one Jubilee. I think
okay,
just last night. I
last
think.
night, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I really enjoyed them. Yeah.
We'll have to get
love Jamie, handsome feller.
we'll have to get him the casting sheet so he can enter that info.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've talked about HH, time to move on from HH and talk about HH. Hopping into week 5, PSR versus HH. PSR took this one in 2 games. Despite that, I feel like HH had a really good game 1 performance, and the game was like really in their hands almost the entire time. It wasn't even like a case of PSR having like more gold on the map from like towers and stuff. Like HH was like actually just ahead, but then it was like towards the end, BackIsSoar I think secured Baron out from under them. Like while they were doing it, they stole it. So it was really unfortunate. And then game 2 was kind of just that one was just PSR. Winning.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what were your guys' thoughts on this game? Whilst I try and make sure my cat isn't like murdering something.
No, you're good. So I don't know. On the site, it has the games flip flopped, but that's okay on the stats sheet, just so you know. But I know. Game one, Toru, he absolutely dominated Zesty in lane. Like I was watching it, and I think like this was the first time that someone made Zesty think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have locked in this champion. I think they did really well. The one thing that HH forgot though is that if Trevor is on the map, he's gonna find a way to smite steal any objective. Um, so that's one thing that teams have to know is just like if MyBackIsSoar is alive, like don't start a Baron because I mean I'd say more often than not he's gonna steal it somehow and you're gonna be like, what the heck, and just be deflated and all the momentum just goes right out the door. So I think that's the one of the moments that you were talking about, like Blitz Sprite, he had a great game on Echo, 7-1 and 5. Like he had some really great W's in that game. But yeah, it was just difficult. And then game two, I feel like Rowdy Fan popped off. Like his ults and just damage in team fight were great as way. 9-2 and 11. Briar's cute feet. As much as I hate saying that name, like they did great. Like they've been one of the more impressive ADCs. I feel like every week they just always show up, even if it's not like stat popping that you see. Like they're
2 points,
not.
by the way. Joel will remind you, he's 2 points.
Yeah, it's he's just doing his job, and if not his job, like he's doing more than that. Like he's usually not giving up a lead. Um, he's CSing. Like he's doing exactly what you'd want. And sometimes you get the bonus pop off games. So good job, PSR.
Yeah, I mean, I had similar thoughts. I guess I'd just add that in classic PSR fashion, in the case of like this first game where it's like top lane's really behind early, and it's like mid's also a little behind. Like your lanes aren't winning, and you would think that that would just let HH like kind of roll over the rest of the map. But like again, they try to go for objectives, and Trevor's alive, and he just goes in and takes them. So you can't really do that with him up. And then also PSR buying a ton of time too if they need it because they're stealing objectives. Also are just, especially with a comp like that, like Olaf, Trin, whatever, like Sivir, Zyra, and I believe Quay, yeah, is like a really good like 3-1-3-1 where like they'll like be able to wave clear anything and be safe doing it relatively, and then like Trin and Olaf can just like they just don't ever have to team fight you. So it's like, yeah, they're behind, but it's like unless you're really forcing the issue, like they're able to just scale up, and Trevor's team's really good about just grabbing up anything. Again, you just can't be lazy against that team, and you have to just be, okay, is the minion wave far enough away? Am I able to push that? If I'm not, like I can't walk away. Yeah, like just everything, you gotta be thinking about it. And whenever you don't, Trevor's like, oh, I'm gonna go take 3 camps and their bot turret, and now I've got an influx of 1,000 gold and took away 300 gold from your jungle, and it just keeps happening over time. And eventually, they just, even though they're down 10 kills, they're up 3k gold, and you're like, how's this happening? But that's how. Yeah, he's not shy about it. He'll let you know that's the macro, or whatever. But yeah, just good macro play. Yeah, surprising to see Zesty have such a hard time in that top lane matchup. Because he is normally so strong up there, but it happens to the best of us. I've had my games, in fact, against that where I got rolled and I was on the opposite end of that. So it happens, but good to see them not just fold over if Zach's not doing really well, which I wouldn't expect anyways. But
Yeah, I think what's got Zesty Queso in that game one is he didn't have teleport. And it just takes away like a lot of kill pressure, It's a
yeah,
good fighting like combat summoner spell to have, and he just didn't have
yeah,
it. So I think that's what kind of put him a little bit behind.
absolutely agreed.
Yeah, I was sorry. I was like looking at the thing, trying to figure out why it was backwards. I was listening.
No, that's too bad.
I was
It's like,
listening.
yeah, he's like, Simeon Amas, I don't think you know that teleport isn't a combat spell.
Well, I'd say at 10 minutes in it is. I teleport behind the wave they're on and start fighting. Right. It's basically a longer flash.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. PSR, like we said, like they were just able to get the objectives even if they aren't in control of like kills and deaths. Like I know HH was ahead on kills by a large margin game 1.
Yeah.
And they were just able to stay alive and not give up too much.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I really gotta add is that I'm a bit of a closeted HH enjoyer. No, the games aren't backwards. Okay,
No?
sorry. I had to double check. I think they were casted
you
backwards.
Oh, okay.
Because I had to like make sure because the games are sorted based on their game ID number, and so that's always like going up every time a game happens. And so I was like, how could they be
Okay.
backwards? But then I looked at the broadcast. I was like, wait, it is backwards. But then I looked at Trevor's match history. It's not backwards. They were casted backwards, which luckily didn't matter.
Right.
I guess technically it wouldn't. Well, I guess it could matter if they win the last two and then the first one's lost. Then it's gonna be a little weird. And they lose the third game and it's like, wait, how did wait? Did they? I guess it was lucky that it didn't matter. But anyways, I think I cut myself off because that's what I do a lot. Hikikomori Havers, I'm like a closeted fan of them. In season 9, I enjoyed them just because of their team name and player names. Is basically it. And then.
Oh, sorry, I like that team a lot. No, as I was gonna say, I think that team's really fun. I haven't talked to them as much as I'd like to. I'd like to, play some more games and stuff with them and just hang out with them a bit more because they seem super fun and I always have a good time chatting with them and they always seem like they're just having a good time. And I enjoy like the team name and individual player names. And they just seem to be having a good time all the time. And I like to see it. So definitely a big fan of that team. I'm glad they've been playing.
Yeah, on top of the team theme, I was gonna say I also think that they've been performing really well and they're kind of one of the sort of like underdogs I think could really take off in the second half of the season. So definitely enjoy that.
Agreed.
But thank you for carrying me through that discussion whilst I looked at those game IDs. But I'm going to need you to carry me through this one too. CR versus 2. 2 won it in 2 games, doing the classic as their name dictates. And unfortunately with this one, I got home from class, fell asleep, woke up, watched the last half of game 2. So I missed a lot of this one, saw a little bit of it though. Eric, as usual, doing pretty good, but unfortunately not going to win in this series. Both teams, I think, had a sub as well in this series. It looks like. Rage Eats Pie, like and then was Mr. the sub for 2 more, and then Mr. Player 2 was the sub for Coach Rivals.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't catch this one either. Just again, busy couple weeks for me, but it looks like just looking at scoreline and stuff really pop off performances from Awesomenator again on Jinx both games, I believe. Which is impressive too, because you're into Eric, who is a very, very solid AD carry player. So to see like just getting that kind of lead relatively early on Jinx, like in game 1, it looks like by 14 minutes, Jinx was 6-0-2. Really impressive. Very well done. I mean, obviously that's bot lane's the duo, so well done to L as well to facilitate that. This seems like a weird Jinx build, but I might just be behind. When he is 6-0-2, I see he had Boots of Swiftness with Static Shiv, which seems odd to me for Jinx, but maybe I'm just behind on Jinx builds, but obviously making it work regardless and doing super well. I do see a Vel'Koz mid game too, which is cool from Slimerai Jack. I don't see that champion very much at all in general anymore, but mid lane especially, it's few and far between. I see Vel'Koz. He's always one where I'm like, I should play this guy more, but then I remember I have to do math and I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think game 1, like Awesomenator, he was just awesome. Like he absolutely stopped that whole game. Game 2, Eric actually did start out 4-1-1 in the bot lane. So like he had the lead. Awesomenator wasn't dying. I'm not really sure where those kills were coming from whenever I was like clicking around the replay. But yeah, I mean, Eric was doing all that he could. I know that there was a fight in game 2 right before like Hexel, and they unfortunately didn't have the best positioning. 2 more also really wants to fight in like those small corridors with, Lilia able to hit her bowling ball and whatnot, and then Slimerai on the Vel'Koz just able to not even have to worry about doing math because he can just throw out a Q and it's going to hit somebody. So, I mean, they just had a great job there. New top laner coming in for them, Lynch Draco, performed pretty darn well, I'll have to say. Matched up well against Shed, and I think they showed that they were worth the roster slot. So good on them to get that win as a quote-unquote new roster for that team, but they just kept on rolling. And I was kind of surprised that Eric didn't have a great game one. I mean, I didn't see it all, I won't lie, but I guess whenever you have someone on Jinx and they get an early lead, like it's going to be pretty difficult to stop that.
Yeah, the Jinx definitely was like popping off really hard. 21-1 and 13-5. Like holy moly, especially the 21-1. Samurai Jack also doing really good. Just on looking at the stats, like Samurai Jack and Austin Wolf just doing it, really, just amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, really well done. I haven't been seeing Boots of Swiftness, Shiv, Jinx though, but I mean, obviously, I'll have to just look and see if people are building that. Other than that,
yeah, the
crazy game.
Shiv I've been seeing a lot on ADCs. I wasn't a big fan of it, and I was always kind of like, it can't be that good. And then there was a Worlds match today where Jin had Shiv, and they showed the after fight damage breakdown, and like over 50% of Jin's damage that match was magical, which meant it was all Shiv damage. And I was like, okay, I guess for an item that doesn't require you to scale the damage, that's kind of a lot of damage it's giving you. So
I think Shiv's really good. I just don't see it on Jinx ever. I see it on like a ton of AD carries all the time, but Jinx is one of the few that I haven't been seeing it getting built on. So
I think it's kind of a replacement
sure
for like Kraken, because I know a big thing when they reworked ADC items a month or two ago is there was like a big lack of. They kind of separated out the attack speed and the damage. There wasn't a big amount on both, or at least you didn't get attack speed, damage, and crit. So Jinx for like a while was like building like Kraken Slayer first, so that way they get the attack speed and the damage, and then they would build into like some crit items, whether that be just like IE, or if they would also be building RFC for the attack speed or for the damage. But I think a lot of people weren't really liking Kraken Slayer. I think it was feeling very weak, and so I think Static Shiv is kind of the replacement for that, because it gives the AD and the attack speed, and Static Shiv's passive is apparently just pretty good.
Yeah, I see on pro builds it's a lot of collector rush into the lethality build or Kraken first, but I do think Kraken might not be in the best spot. I don't know. I know it's definitely a lot weaker than it was, but every item is, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Definitely interesting, but obviously I think Static's fine, and obviously it is. It worked out just fine, but and then also not having Berserker Greaves though. But also Berserker Greaves only give 25% attack speed now, which is definitely nerfed. But like, I don't know. Probably, I would still probably buy them on Jinx, but because it's so important to get that attack speed rolling. But
yeah, that I do think was a little bit weird as Swiftness.
Yeah,
like
no one way to build though. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like.
There isn't an objective truth.
I don't know if like Braum was being really annoying, so they wanted the Swiftness to reduce the slow.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I could think of. But I don't know. Even then, you're an ADC, so you're kind of supposed to. I mean, not to say that you'll never get hit by skill shots, but like you're supposed to be like kind of behind your team. If you're getting hit by a skill shot, it's kind of like a worst case scenario kind of thing. So
yeah, don't want to build for Braum Qs generally.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that and possibly Mordekaiser slow, but like you said, like Jinx shouldn't be standing anywhere near him.
Yeah,
I mean, if I think he gets you, you're probably just done. Boots, whatever boots you have, aren't going to get you out of that, death realm.
But that kind of wraps up the matches for this week. A little bit short, only 4, because some team decided to go on vacation or something. What's the deal with that? Week 4 and week 5 matches both unscheduled.
Yeah, so unfortunately, week 4 is the day of the new patch, so that's whenever
right.
Things just didn't want to work out for us. Pyroan couldn't connect, and I mean, I know he's like a lower. Yeah, he's a lower level player on our team.
Yeah,
like he mainly just brings us down. But for 2 more, I believe their ADC. I think it was Ostinator, like he wasn't able to connect, and we saw, just talking about their game against 2, how he went 21-1 and then 13-5. Like he's clearly their strongest point of that team. So
it's like you could have brought in an upgrade, but it's like you don't want to play them so nerfed. Yeah,
right, because Slamurai was crying a little bit. He's like, all right,
Mhm.
like this isn't going to be fair. Like we're
Yeah.
missing our best player. You guys are missing a pawn. Like,
Yeah.
so unfortunately that happened. And then this week, there was some beer league drama, and unfortunately the fallout from that was that RAWR had to forfeit this week's game. Which is good for us. We needed some more wins in that win column. We did scrim against them though. They were a very strong team. Their mid laner, I won't release too much information because I know someone might be playing against them next week. But their mid laner was really strong. He might have been the best mid that we've played against this season, even compared to week one.
Wow.
So he's a very aggressive mid laner. I'm just gonna say that. So if you do happen to be playing against RAR next week or in future weeks,
I think I am next week.
yeah, you guys are.
Yeah.
I think if you can stop their mid laner, like that's going to be really helpful. The other lanes, they did what they were supposed to do, but their mid laner, I believe, had 30 plus kills in 2 games. That was unexpected. And it might have actually been in the 40s. We did not perform well. But like Doki also, he's playing jungle. He was where he needed to be to help out all members of his team. So I think they're going to be surprising. But it's nice to have 2 bye weeks in a row. We can really regroup and not play any meaningful games, and
Yeah.
it's just good for morale.
I think you guys did really good the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we
I
didn't
don't see
drop
any
a single
losses on the
beer league.
board,
Right.
so
No losses in the beer league. We are still trying to figure out a time to play against 2. It's a little difficult finding free time for 10 people twice a week. But we'll do our best for it.
okay, all right. Well, with that, let's hop into some of the rankings. So first up, player of the week. My nominee might not be super secret with how much I was glazing him in his matches, but Eric is my nominee for that. He just did really well, and I mean, he showed he could perform on mages. There's a lot of ADCs that can't really do too well on mages because they are just so fixed into that ADC mindset. So he did really well. He had good Karthus ults. I'm pretty sure I remember there was a play where he like flashed forward so that way his E was doing damage, and that way he died in them because he was like a low health, so he died in them, so he was able to still continue the fight even when he was dead, and that was like really good. So yeah, Eric did really great, and I think he's my player of the week nomination. How about you,
I
Tyler?
like it. So this is going to be kind of awkward because Eric lost to this guy that I want to nominate, Awesomenator. Like
Yeah.
we were all talking about him in that series, CR against 2. And obviously, like, yeah, it's the whole week, and Eric didn't have a great game 1. But I think with Awesomenator going 21-1, being part of 29 of his team's 34 kills in game 1, like that's going to be huge. And then being part of 29 out of 33 in game 2, like
Yeah.
he was his team's damage. He knew where he had to be. He was in all the right spots. And I mean, L supported him, like making sure, okay, I'm going to play Lulu so you can't die. I'm going to play Soraka, another annoying champion, just so you can't die. Like, so L is in the right spot. Unfortunately, I don't think I watched this series, so I can't, say that L saved Awesomenator from dying so many times, because that's the support's job. And if they're doing their job better than the other support, I'd like to give them props for that. But yeah, I'm going to go with Awesomenator this one.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. With the caveat of I unfortunately didn't catch like most of the games this week just because I've been busy. But just looking at them, doing a quick overview and clicking through the VODs and stuff, it definitely looks like just very solid performance all around throughout both games, and just very low deaths, and into what we know is a super good player as well. Which I mean, obviously, same argument can be made for Eric, but I think Awesomenator did incredible. Really, really good job both games, and also just against I know a super tough opponent, so probably give it to them. But I also see the point for Eric too. He's did really good too, but yeah, I'd give it to Awesomenator, especially for that game 1 performance.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 2-1, so I'll give Player of the Week to Awesome Nader. But to finish that off, I'm just gonna say Game 2, Eric 14 kills, Awesome Nader 13 kills. Anyways, let's have a
That's
look.
fair.
Let's have a look at some of these team rankings. Obviously, PSR still up at the top. Nobody's been able to dethrone them yet. Followed up by 1IQ, ABW, two more, all tied. Two I have. Okay, I guess. Yeah, still some games left to be played, but yeah, those all tied. And then following up from there, a lot of teams that I feel like are pretty evenly matched. In terms of 1IQ, ABW, and 2, I think that 1IQ is definitely probably the top amongst those three so far from what I've seen performance-wise. And then I think would probably go with 2 above ABW. After that, I think that, yeah, PSR, 1IQ, 2 are probably like the top 3 at the current point. But what are your guys' thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, I
How the teams are
mean,
doing?
um, like I said, I think basically every team right now is actually looking pretty solid, or at least has had like really solid signs of life even in their losses. But I do think, obviously we lost to PSR, so like this is probably slightly ego to say, but I still do think, shit talking aside, that we are the best team. I think we had an off week against them. In game 2, we were actually doing pretty good until, which I would say is a fluke. I don't think that would happen. Like if we ran that back like 30 more times, I don't think it would ever happen again. Support Sejuani did steal Baron from a Cho'Gath into jungler, which should never happen. So, but we know that, and like obviously not to flame, but like it's just not going to happen again. And that game looks a lot like that started to just give them all the pressure back when it would have been the other way. So I think we're the top team, but I think PSR is still really good and right there with us. But I do think we're the better team. But then, yeah, I mean, ABW is super good. Yeah, so many good teams. Like, two more is looking really good. I mean, even the like middle and lower of the pack, like CR, HH, everybody's looking awesome. Like I said, LS hasn't, and I think BW hasn't picked up a win yet either. But both those teams have like consistently looked very good in their series. I mean, obviously, some teams just have to be at the lower end of the power standings, but like, I don't know. I guess I'd do like 1IQ, PSR, ABW, probably two more. And then I think even though they haven't, I think probably HH, maybe, which RAWR is tough to say because it's basically a fresh team now. So that one, I'm probably just not even going to rate. I think it's unfair of me to either way. But I think probably, yeah, then like, well, did I say CR? I think they'd probably be next. And then if I didn't, and then it gets a little tough. I think KGB. If you can get Pyro maybe get him to like do some VOD reviews for him or something, because I know he's a low point player, but I think you could probably get him up and performing. And if you were able to do that, I think you guys would be doing really well. And then I do love LS. A lot of them are real life friends of mine as well, and I think they are just like, so there's some bias, I'm sure, but like also I just genuinely think in a lot of their losses, like they have looked like plenty of signs of life. And I know Cooper 900 Slimes has been having a little fun with like Heimerdinger top and whatever, yeah, like doing his thing. And I think if they like, which I don't think it's like bad, but I also think it's not probably like the most optimal thing, Blitzcrank top and stuff. So I think if they like turned it into like super serious mode and we're drafting like purely to win, I think they would be looking really good. And then BW, like again, I'm putting them at the bottom besides RAWR, who's unrated, but like I think BW is still looking super stellar. So like there's just a really solid set of teams this season, I think, but that'd probably be where I'd put them. Hopefully I didn't forget anyone.
No, I think you hit everyone. I don't know. I had to go based on wins. I mean, this team has 5 wins. That's 2 more than you guys. I know you guys haven't played this week yet, but that's not my fault. So yeah, I mean, I have to go with them, even though you are saying that you guys had that off week where and the thing happened with the Baron seal by a smiteless Sejuani. The one thing you have to remember though is that they did have teleport, which is a great combat spell. You're gonna.
You're right. When you're right, you're right. I don't know.
So I like them. I do like 1IQ next, and I think ABW should be faring pretty well. I mean, they haven't had their full roster like every week, and they're still churning out wins. Like even with missing out on Bromstein some weeks, they're still able to perform and do really well. Follow that up with 2, and then I think HH and CR. I don't know, RAR. I know there's a little asterisk next to them since there isn't much info on them. I think they're going to be really strong, and I could see them surging ahead a bit. I'm not sure what their schedule's looking like. 1IQ, CR, HH, and then LS. So, I mean, they have potential to shoot up the standings. Next week against 1IQ be a good matchup for them. But one thing I want to say about BW and LS, they play tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Central. So one of them is going to pick up their first win in the season. I don't know. Like I like both teams. I've had a good relationship with the BW coach or captain or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, absolutely. Very pleasant team.
Yeah. And I think it's time for, Blue Metal to have a pop-off game and actually be able to carry his team to a series victory. So no, we're not doing that here, but I would predict them to take that series.
I think so. I would, but again, I think both teams are looking pretty solid despite their standings. And but yeah, I would also give it to LS.
Personally, I believe in LS's name, and I believe they will lose. No, but yeah, like as we said, like despite there being like some teams that do seem to be at the top, I feel like all the teams that are like below aren't really below. I feel like all the teams are doing relatively good. Like I mentioned earlier, not being able to keep my cast straight and having a cast on Tuesday that I was doing for my university, where in their division it's just there's like 2 different sections where it's like above Emerald and below, and so my university team, which is like they're like former master players, but they're like currently Emerald, so they were in the Emerald and below tier. Played against a team that was like all iron and bronze, and like that seeing that match is actually like a stomp. And none of the matches in Beer League have been anything remotely close to that. Like all the matches have been pretty good. I mean, some of them might be like a bit more one-sided, but even the series itself was like a good series, or the teams didn't really look that bad. So
yeah,
like definitely, genuinely, the teams are like actually looking pretty even.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think my team's the strongest right now. Like, I'm not just being, but like, I don't think there'd be a single team where I'd like be like, oh, that's a free win, and wouldn't take all of the proper time to prep and draft and do my research. For like every single one of these teams, I know I'm gonna have to go in and fight for the win. Like, there's not a single team that I'd go and disrespect and be like, no, this is easy, we got it, for sure.
Yep. But with that, I'm gonna try and get this wrapped up so you can get to your team practice. Future games, a bit of an exciting one. 1IQ versus ABW this Sunday, the 6th at 4 p.m. You excited for it? Are you scared for it?
We're very excited. MPEX is goated. Bradley is very handsome. It's going to be great. I always like playing against Ryan Bromstein. He's just love that guy. I mean, it's, like that whole team's fantastic. So I don't know. It's going to be fun no matter what. I think they are super strong. So like again, I'm not going to go in thinking that's just like a free win or whatever. I think we will win, but like I think it's going to be a banger series, and definitely again another super strong team, but also another super fun and nice, like just a cool team, great people. So definitely looking forward to that one. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a good series. First one to move up to 4 wins and have a clear cut second place. So a lot's on the line there.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely be a good one. As we are talking about BW versus LS on Friday. That'll be one of those teams' first win, guaranteed. So that'll be exciting. And I'm gonna avoid talking about games going into next week because I just want to get this wrapped up. So we'll end that here. Thank you so much, Richie, for joining us. It was really fun having you on. You provided some great insight. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a lot of fun.
As always, thank you, Tyler Siminonas, for joining us as well.
Yeah.
Always. And that'll wrap it up for this week. Weeks 4 to 5. Next week will be 5 and 6. So thanks for watching, and have a great week.